Bro, Austin, you need to see this.
Dre, what is it?
Just look.
Is this a new Universal park?
Yeah, Epic Universe. Apparently it's opening in 2023.
There's no way this is actually getting built.
Austin, I don't think this will make it to Orlando.
Justin, I will get this car to Epic Universe. Just have to fix the alignment and... Bruh. Dang it!
Yeah, you're definitely not making it halfway across I-4.
Yeah, let's go! So recently, I visited the brand new Universal's Epic Universe in Orlando, Florida. This $7.7 billion theme park has ambitious but highly impressive rides and immersive theming. This park has one of the best top rides here, with their top 3 in Stardust Racers, Monsters Unchained, and Battle at the Ministry. It is one of the best parks in the world. Now, it did take a little bit for me to finally visit this park due to personal reasons, but I did eventually make it, and it was a lot of fun. Granted, I only got 7 of the 11 rides done, and most of them only rode once, but I believe I had a great but busy day at Epic Universe. So with that being said, this is my day at Epic Universe on June 15th, 2025. So this story begins with my parents dropping me off at the drop-off area at 10:45 in the morning. Now, right off the bat, you're already thinking, why did you have your parents drop you off that late? Well, I would have driven myself, except my car is a complete box. The problem is that whenever I try pressing over 60, the whip shakes violently side to side. If I were to take it to Universal, I'm pretty sure the car would break apart. And no, before anyone asks, all my homies either don't have cars or their cars are also boxes. So I had to have my parents drop me off at Epic, a 2-hour drive from my place in St. Petersburg. To make matters worse, we blew a flat on the way to Epic. It was ridiculous. We ended up having to stop at 3 different Wawas on the way. This caused me to arrive nearly an hour late. Walking to the front gate, I was amazed to see this park. The front entrance was already jaw-dropping. Seeing this portal, I could not believe this park was real. After passing security, which, first of all, why on earth is Universal still using TSA for security? Most parks use contactless scanners that are quick and easy to use. Universal, meanwhile, uses TSA-style airport scanners with that big back loose article scanners. So pray to God they don't strip search your bag and find whatever devious stuff you have in there. After scanning my tickets, I'm greeted with Celestial Park. This is a glorious central hub filled with fountains and greenery. The main purpose of this land is to connect the 4 portals. But I didn't go to any of the portals first. Instead, I sprinted for Stardust Racers. This is the awesome mock rides dueling multi-launch littered with airtime. The reason I headed there first is that Stardust actually had one of the shortest waits that day. It's no secret that Epic Universe has been slammed as fuck. In fact, as you will see in this video, I had to wait over an hour for most rides. Stardust, on the other hand, had a 15-minute wait all day, so I straight shot it for Stardust. Before we continue, I do want to mention that for the Stardust portion, I'm just gonna be reusing a section from the Stardust review video. This is because I wrote both scripts at the same time, so it's just easy for me to reuse stuff. So a lot that I'm gonna be talking about is gonna sound word for word to the review. Just keep that in mind for the next several minutes. To the left of Stardust is the entrance. You have this set piece with the name and the 2 comets. It's a nice visual set piece. You enter underneath this archway to the left of the coaster, where you're greeted with an Art Deco style train station theme. But when you enter the queue line, you realize there's almost zero theming. It goes without saying that Stardust is by far the worst themed ride at Epic Universe. From the queue line on the first floor up until you hit the lockers, you have this long pathway into a series of winding queue space. The only resemblance to theming are these metal comet spears placed throughout the queue. Stardust has more of a stylized look to it. The only interesting part of this queue is the views you get of Stardust Racers. It's neat seeing the 2 sides race. Once you make it past this point, you reach the lockers. This is one of those rides where absolutely nothing rides with you. This includes any bags, along with those in pockets like phones, wallets, car keys, and your Nintendo band, even if you have zippered pockets. Hey, at least they aren't violating and strip searching you naked like some other parks. You will put your belongings in free, complimentary lockers that are of decent size that you access via Face ID. Essentially, how it works is that you scan your face similar to when you scan your park tickets. Then it will show just how chopped you are, similar to what your iPhone camera does. Once you confirm you are indeed that chopped, you're given a locker to put your stuff in. And these are double-sided, so there's no log jamming getting your stuff. Then you climb up a set of stairs onto the second floor. And get used to climbing stairs, cause holy shit, this park has a lot of stairs. I swear every ride here has between 2 to 8 sets of stairs you need to climb per attraction. Heck, there are random pathways that require you to climb stairs. They get tiring real fast. And don't count on using elevators here, most are for ADA passes only. They are a disease at this park like roaches at a Florida home. There, you will pass a set of metal detectors to ensure you don't sneak metal in. After passing the metal detectors and feeling several bands lighter, you can choose your side. The left is for yellow or photon, while the right is for green or pulsar. From my experience, the green side typically has the longer wait, but not by a lot. I opted to go to green first since that is the better side. When I reached the grouper, I realized there's queue space for the front row, so I asked for the front row and he allowed me to wait for it. And it was only an extra 3 train wait, so I recommend at least one front row ride. As for the actual ride, Stardust is one of the greatest coasters of all time. This mock multi-launch has an airtime-centric layout akin to a hypercoaster. The first half consists of larger top hats and smaller camelbacks that deliver the powerful ejector type of airtime that matches the ones found on some elite Intamins. Then this low turn at the front has some great G's, but the second half kicks things into overdrive. The Celestial Spin is a great inversion where it's half a camelback and a 0G roll. These inversions throw riders in both airtime, hang time, and whip, but it's designed so that one side traverses the element above and under the other side. Then the rest of the second half provide more of the insane ejector as well as strong positive G forces and lateral whip. Then the 2 launches have a surprising kick for a mock coaster, and the cherry on top is the dueling feature. Throughout the ride, you're racing side by side with the other train throughout the course, with several crossovers and near misses. This is perhaps the greatest dueling coaster as it's tacked onto a great layout. Hopefully, it can continue to run as a dueling coaster. The last thing we need is the dueling to stop from objects falling out like dildos on the WNBA court. After I rode on the green side, I went downstairs to grab my stuff, and immediately went back for round 2, this time on the yellow side. Once again, it was a 15-minute wait, and the yellow track was just as good as the green track. But one thing I noticed while waiting in line for the front row in yellow was that this park has a major sightline issue.
Dog, this coaster is over 100 feet tall. I'm pretty sure every ride over that would have sightline issues. Velocicoaster probably has the same thing.
The issue came from the station.
I'm sorry, what?
From Stardust Station, you can clearly see not only the back ends of Harry Potter, Nintendo, and Dark Universe, but also the nearby hotels such as the Hyatt Regency and the Convention Center. It's not just Stardust Station, there are just random pathways onto the midway where you can see the back areas. The reason I say this is an issue is that it defeats the purpose of the lands, which are portals designed to embrace you in. You aren't supposed to see the land outside the ones you are in as part of the theme. After my double ride on Stardust, I made my way into my first portal. How to Train Your Dragon. Walking into this land, I was jaw-dropped how ambitious and themed the Isle of Berk is. The land leaves no space untouched, with every attention to detail making for an immersive land. But I didn't have time to appreciate everything. I was on a mission. See, because this was my first time, I made sure to ride at least all the major rides in one go. That way, any future visits, I can appreciate the little details without worrying about getting on all the rides. Also, weather called for thunderstorms later that afternoon since Florida's weather is more bipolar than a girl on her business. So I made my way to Hiccup's Wing Glider, but first, I made a quick pit stop at this food stand that I quickly discovered served mac and cheese cones. But I didn't get that, and frankly, it looked overrated as hell. I just needed to get my souvenir cup activated. During my visit, Epic was hot as balls as I felt I was getting more cooked than in the high school locker rooms. So every time I go to Universal, I make sure to bring my souvenir cups as these keep me hydrated throughout the day. Granted, I paid $12 for the refills and it's $20 for a brand new cup, but trust me, this will come in clutch. Besides, even if you don't pay for the sodas, you can still use it for the water. After grabbing my Coke, no, not those Cokes, I headed straight for Hiccup's Wing Glider. This is a creative, intimate family launch coaster that weaves in and out of the Isle of Berk. However, beyond the entrance, the queue line kinda sucked, because it's an outdoor series of switchbacks with little to see, and this is a big switchback room too. I can't imagine how long the wait would be if it was fully filled. During my ride, 2/3 of the queue space was filled, resulting in a 90-minute wait. This was rather common at most of the rides throughout the day. Heck, the Hiccup and Toothless meet and greet had a 75-minute wait all day. Luckily, unlike the lines at Six Flags, the lines here consistently move. The ride ops here do a great job at dispatching trains quickly with almost every seat filled. It is also reliable, as I never saw this coaster close once for mechanical reasons. That's something I have to give credit for. I've heard the rides here had reliability issues during previews, but during my visit, only 2 rides went down for mechanical delays. The long lines were entirely due to popularity. With that in mind though, it still took forever purely from the sheer number of people riding it. Also, they were only running one side of the dual station. Never made sense on a busy day. The theming could have been good, but they're loosely scattered. I mean, Stardust is visible from the land and queue, but that broke while I was in line. At least it was shaded, ain't trying to look like a fried chicken meal. So to entertain myself, I pulled out the good old Nintendo DS. Yes sir, you probably feel like an unk after hearing that. It was meant to be an inside joke for a Nintendo ride. Hey, I ranked up a couple of levels in Super Mario Bros. Right before you reach the stairs, which yes, more stairs, fun. You have to put your bags in free lockers like the ones on Stardust. This is ride 2 of 3 at this park that has them, and they work the same. Scan your chopped face for a free locker, and they're double-sided, so you grab your stuff on the other side when you're finished. Alright, one long wait later, and I finally got to ride row 8, god damn it! Bruh. Yeah, I didn't get preferred seating. Now, I don't think they use strict assigned seating since there is a front row queue. Rather, it was just the unfortunate result of me being a single rider. As for the ride, Hiccup is how you do a family coaster right. This launch coaster weaves in and out of the Isle of Berk, so there's a lot of kinetic energy from the coaster. That alone adds theming to the ride, but it also has practical sets meant for the coaster. This can be seen with the 2 launches, which are encased in practical set pieces that set up the story. The story is that Hiccup and Toothless built this mechanical flying machine that you ride. However, the wings aren't properly set up, so for the duration of the ride, you traverse throughout the Isle of Berk. This is quickly set up in the first launch, which features both a Hiccup and Toothless animatronic. Then the second launch has this cave work with functioning Gronkle animatronics rising, but the layout is surprisingly punchy, as the first half has some zippy turns and an intense helix. Then the second half gives riders a faint float sensation as the train traverses some wacky banked hills. My only issue with Hiccups is the lap bars. The problem is that they're essentially big bricks sitting on your thighs. They don't feel the most comfortable as they tighten on your thighs. I've never ridden Superman the Ride, but I have to imagine that this is what the restraints feel like. Luckily, I quickly discovered you can scooch up to mitigate this. Overall, Hiccups is a high quality attraction that, while does not have the best forces, is still a great family ride with impressive theming. After grabbing my bags, I left the Isle of Berk. Yeah, I didn't actually do anything else. If you've seen my top 10 video on Epic, which by my guess, barely any of you have, you know that I didn't do 4 rides cause they were low on the priority list. They were standard flats, and in a park with more unique attractions, skipping them was a conscious choice by me. I'm mentioning this now because 2 of them are in the Isle of Berk. Fire Drill, the Mock Splash Battle, and Dragon Racer Rally, the Gerstlauer Skyfly. Both are standard flat rides that tons of other parks have with long queues all day, and Fire Drill specifically went down for most of the day. Also, in that same video, I also skipped both shows also due to a lack of time. I'll get around to doing them when I get back. After refilling my cup with Sprite, I backtracked to Dark Universe. Backtracking is something you have to do a lot here as due to the design, it's essentially one land with 4 dead ends, but walking to the Dark Universe, you realize how easy it is to look more red than a crime scene. Because one major flaw with this park is the lack of shade. For a park located in Florida, the lack of shade means it's easier to burn and sweat your nuts off. For reference, I took my cousins from out of town to the beach 2 weeks ago. 2 of them got sunburnt within 3 hours. And yes, we did put on sunscreen. Hopefully, Universal puts more shade in or the trees grow in, because it's unpleasant getting between portals. As for Celestial Park, which never abbreviate that name, it is a nice and beautiful land to chill at. The land consists of a lot of green, gold, and blue with tons of greenery bushes, fountains with water jets, and Art Deco buildings. Universal said they wanted to put the park back in Celestial Park, and you definitely get that vibe of a public park. Then the Grand Helios Hotel makes for a nice backdrop of the park. I would like to stay there, but like, come on. $800? Bruh. That's how much the average iPhone cost. Like, bro, I have a lot of shit to pay. Ain't no way I'm paying for that. Making my way into Dark Universe, the vibe changes from a chill place to that of mystery. Darkmoor is themed as a dark and moody place that the monsters reign over the land, and with the fog and lighting, it's atmospheric. But one thing that surprised me is how small this land is. Darkmoor is a narrow pathway with just a few buildings. They have some neat activities and food, but like, I ain't trying to destroy both my stomach and my bathroom. You really just go here for the two attractions. I was originally heading for Werewolf, the mock spinning coaster, but then I saw that Monsters Unchained had a 10-minute wait. I know I said I was trying to beat the rides before the weather does, but Werewolf, I'm heading to Monsters. And it was insane that Monsters had the shortest wait all day, because in that same top 10 video, I proclaimed Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment, as the best ride at Epic. First of all, the theming elements are top notch. From the moment you enter the queue to when you leave the gift shop, you're immersed in the ride inside the manor and caves. The queue has you walk through the halls and rooms of Frankenstein Manor. Do you see these shots? This looks like a haunted house. Then there's two pre-shows to explain and set up the ride perfectly. Monsters uses a Kuka robotic arm similar to Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, but this uses newer technology to enhance the ride experience. What makes Monsters Unchained special is the sheer amount of animatronics. Now, I'm fairly certain a lot of you haven't done this yet and are trying to avoid spoilers. Here is the timestamp to skip if you want to avoid spoilers. As for the rest of you, Monsters uses 15 like-life animatronics throughout the ride. This means that every few seconds, you'll encounter a monster that has movements similar to an actual person. From creatures like Dracula and Frankenstein, you're engaged at all times. Now, granted, the animatronics are known to be problematic at times and may not work during your ride, but during my ride, the animatronics were working. Even the jumping Dracula one at the finale. Then the rest of the practical set pieces are also perfect, as the rockwork and screens are used as tools to progress the story. I do have tiny nitpicks, but they aren't that big of a deal. Overall, Monsters Unchained is one of the greatest rides in the world. I liked it so much, I ran it back 4 times as, well, the wait was that short. After my mini marathon, I made my way to Curse of the Werewolf. First impressions, this coaster is chopped as shit. This is because of the absurd amount of nets surrounding the track, making it look more chopped than a teenager with pepperonis all over him. But regardless how it looked, I made my way into the queue line and wow, the roller coaster queues here sucked ass. As much as I praise the theming here at Epic, the queue lines for the roller coasters have little to no theming. The queue line has scattered props and a shed themed to the werewolf. Once again, this had a long wait. This is because here, the coaster is not only fairly popular, but it also runs with 2 20-passenger trains. Before I got on, I realized there's no preferred seating as there's no dedicated queue for a specific seat. But somehow, I managed to get the front row thanks to a single rider 4 people ahead of me. But for the life of me, I cannot pronounce his actual name. Now, I do know what his name is, he follows me on Instagram, but I have no idea how to pronounce his name because I think it's a Spanish name. After all, he runs some type of bar club in Brazil. Hearing that out loud, I'm just realizing, how the f did you even make it into the country? Now, if this happened any other day of the year, I wouldn't have batted an eye. But my visit took place the day after the No Kings protest. If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially, around the same time I went to Epic, there was this big old protest happening against ICE. Because, you know, ICE raids were a big problem around that time. And, well, this dude is Hispanic. So, like, genuinely, how did you get in? Thank goodness bro didn't get deported. I mean, there could have been some going around in Orlando, but, like, they probably would have gotten run over, let's be honest. Let's call him Vince since that is close to his real name. Vince requested the front row and the grouper by some miracle allowed it. And since he is a single rider, I took the seat next to him. So I talked to Vince and this guy quickly notices my eye view cameras. I have never had this happen before. Usually I have to tell people before they start to get it. But then I realized this dude had Meta Ray-Bans with him. Vince was also getting POVs like I was. Unfortunately, his battery died right before we got on, so he never got that POV. But I did. So we got on the train and wow was the ride disappointing. The ride is a mock ride spinning launch coaster. However, this is not an extreme spinner. Not even close. This is supposed to be a family coaster, but even this was underwhelming. The biggest issue is that nothing happens. The first half has a weak launch into a genuinely great airtime hill. This hill has great flow and is a highlight of this coaster. After a fine turn, the feature is a swing launch in this shed. While the swing launch extends the runtime, it's not the most exciting, especially since they didn't place an airtime hill in the middle like they did with Copperhead. The highlight is supposed to be this shed that contains 2 werewolf animatronics. Except due to the speed and spinning cars, it's hard to spot them. The second half consists of zippy turns that are decent, except it ends just as quickly as it begins. Curse of the Werewolf is short and only has 2/3 memorable elements. The biggest offense is that despite being a spinning coaster, it barely spins. Sometimes great theming can save a mediocre coaster into something great. However, the theming here feels half. The set piece on the brake run looks like a display at Spirit Halloween. I know I sound critical of this coaster, but Werewolf inherently isn't bad. It doesn't hurt and it does try to do something. It's just for being a Universal coaster, I would have expected more. I'd say ride it, but it's not worth the hour wait. Especially since I rode Monsters 4 times in that same span of time. After my lone ride and getting Vince to follow me, I tried to find Igor. For those who don't know, Dark Universe sometimes have walk-around characters roaming around. I say sometimes because they weren't out during my visit. That was probably the most disappointing thing about my day because I was trying to run a punchline with Igor. Whatever, I used the bathrooms before I left Dark Universe. You know what? These were some clean bathrooms that I can use with ease. Nothing like the stained stalls at my high school. Leaving Dark Universe, I went inside Pizza Moon for more refills. Let me just say, this is a fantastic restaurant to chill at. I actually plan to get food here as I heard pizza here is good. However, I didn't get food anywhere at this park. This is because most food places are table service restaurants and I didn't have the time, so I didn't eat until after I left. After grabbing some Fanta, I hopped the pipe into Super Nintendo World. Once again, Celestial Park is burning me to a crisp. Walking into Nintendo, you have to ascend a set of escalators to get to the land. This is because the entrance is on the 2nd floor. The design makes more sense if you've been to the Japan location. Seeing Nintendo for the first time, this immediately became one of my favorite theme park lands. The moving props and interactivity adds a lot of kinetic energy into the land. After climbing down more stairs, more damn stairs! There's a separate pathway into Donkey Kong Country. This contained the next ride I was heading for, Minecart Madness. This is a rare set point boom coaster. A boom coaster is a model where the train jumps off the track. Okay, no, what the heck is that? We're not dealing with this again. The reason legit jump track coasters don't exist is due to safety, physics, and maintenance. Here are the patents I found on Google to illustrate how the system functions. How the boom coaster works is that there's a fake track over the real track. Then the cars are connected to the real track via a boom arm. This creates the illusion you're jumping the track without actually jumping the track. However, this design creates 2 issues. The first is capacity. In order to visualize the full effect, the cars only seat 4 people. As you can imagine, the line moves painstakingly slow. The line is contained into 2 rooms that unfortunately lack theming. The queue is essentially one big gold room with nothing to see, but the first queue house doesn't even have a roof. Once again, be careful with the heat, because one thing I failed to mention yet was the amount of sunburnt guests I witnessed that day. The only memorable thing about this queue is the impressive Cranky Kong animatronic. This is another lifelike animatronic. This thing is impressive with how it moves as he explains the story, but to be honest, I was not paying attention to what the plot was. I think it had something to do with traversing minecarts to find the golden banana. Right before I got on, I overheard 3 guests ahead of me saying they should have gotten express passes. However, I highly discourage anyone from buying express because they are a complete ripoff. For one, depending on when you visit, it's $300 per person for express. Never mind the $200 ticket to get in, you now gotta charge another paywall for them. Second, the express passes are one-time uses only. This means you can only use them to skip a line once and you can't use them again for the same attraction. Finally, express is excluded on both Battle at the Ministry and Minecart Madness. Why would I ever pay $300 to skip the lines that I can only use once per attraction and excluded from others? At that point, it'd be like throwing money to the IRS.
Hey, why is the IRS saying I owe back taxes?
So no express passes. When you board on a moving platform and board your train. As for the ride, it's very questionable, because this leads into the second flaw with the boom coaster: smoothness, or lack thereof. Minecart is undeniably the roughest coaster here at Epic. During the ride, the train violently wobbles side to side, so the ride feels like a violent car accident. The reason Minecart is so rough is due to the cars being further away from the track. It's subject to something called torque. Essentially, torque is rotational force from the equation force times distance. The greater distance from the track, the greater the torque, leading to more displacement. So any imperfections is amplified. So it's a good thing the theming saves it. The ride is themed to Donkey Kong Country as you ride on minecarts with Donkey and Diddy. Hey, wait a minute. Throughout the ride, you traverse broken tracks on minecarts with Donkey Kong to find the lost banana, and it's well themed with plenty of Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong props. However, the coaster is short with two halves that function the same. After the chain lift, you have a sweeping turn into straight track, an airtimeless airtime hill, a tight 180-degree turn, and a jump track gimmick section. So for waiting a while for this ride, there's not a lot of prime ride time. Between its low capacity and roughness, Minecart Madness is not something I would do every visit, but the theming will always get me back, just not every visit. Alright, we got all the outdoor coasters done, let's do Mario Kart. Except that bitch had a 3-hour wait when I got off. Looks like we're saving that for later. Oh wait, I still haven't gotten the front row POV for Hiccups. Check the wait times and bruh. Still a 90-minute wait. So I checked back on Stardust, and it's still 15 minutes. Looks like we're going back for round 2. So I backtracked to Stardust Racers, once again got cooked in the Florida sun in Celestial Park, but I appreciate the effort into landscaping this area. Once again with the Grand Helios backdropping the park. Back to Stardust, and the experience was basically the same as it was this morning. Put your stuff in a locker and wait a short time for the coaster. So I went back for 2 more rides on Stardust, one on each side, again in the front row. This double ride once again showed me how elite Stardust is, but since this was later in the day, the coaster was running a bit faster, so the ejector airtime felt even stronger. And of course, the dueling crossovers and near misses make this ride special, as the interactivity with the other train is superb. And since this uses lockers, hopefully this can stay a dueling coaster. That's why I claimed it to be my second favorite roller coaster in Florida behind Iron Gwazi. I know there's a debate between this and Velocicoaster, as both are world-class Universal coasters. Makes sense, and yeah, both are neck and neck in my rankings. While I love Velocicoaster for its complete package, I ultimately prefer Stardust Racers for the ride experience. But that doesn't mean Velocicoaster is bad. I understand it if you prefer it over Stardust. After Stardust, I checked back if Hiccup's wait got any shorter. Dang it, 2 hours? Why is it still that long? Wait a minute, how long is Battle at the Ministry? 90 minutes? Looks like I know where I'm heading next. After leaving Stardust and grabbing more soda, I made my way into Wizarding Paris. This Paris land is immaculate with no detail untouched. It's a very immersive land that recreates Paris in the Wizarding world in the 1920s. Wait a minute, what? The 1920s?
Austin, the Paris land is themed to Fantastic Beast.
What? So, despite having a Harry Potter ride that canonically takes place in the 90s, the land is themed to Fantastic Beasts in the 20s?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Who came up with that idea?
Well, the Fantastic Beast was going to be the entire land, but they started construction before the movies fumbled the bag.
Oh, they got stuck between a rock and 8 hours of turds.
Yeah, precisely.
Never mind the fact continuity doesn't make sense, the land is perfect. So I made my way into the ride and, wait, is that a butterbeer stand? Oh snap. I grab a frozen butterbeer first, which is fantastic. Now it's time to enter the queue and, holy crap, this is amazing. Battle at the Ministry is themed to the Ministry of Magic, so the queue is themed to the various rooms of that facility. This is probably the best themed queue line at Epic. You feel like you're a part of the movies. Yeah, the line was long. I waited 80 minutes for it, but it's a queue I don't mind waiting for. However, one thing I realized while waiting for the Ministry is that they need to add benches to queue lines, because by this point, my legs turned to jelly. I was completely sore and needed to sit. The only problem was that queue lines in general are not designed for sitting. Your only 2 options for sitting are either the nasty floor or the guard railing that someone will scold you over for. Because back on Hiccups, the operators constantly had to tell people not to sit on the props. This is not something I think they will fix with their existing rides, but it is something to consider for future development. The other thing I saw is how comically long this queue is. I swear, this queue lasted forever and I thought I was never gonna make it to the ride. Luckily, there's tons of props, an animatronic, and more freaking stairs. Why are there so many stairs at this park? I swear, I saw more elevators than rides here. Most of them you can't even access. At least it didn't break down once during my visit. Yeah, surprisingly, Battle at the Ministry never went down once for any reason. This is surprising because Ministry uses one-of-a-kind technology that's prone to frequent breakdowns. This is the reason why during previews, Universal was using a virtual queue for this attraction, except nobody could figure out how to get in and ride it. So it's a good thing they got rid of it, cause that would have had you more stressed out than a pregnancy scare. However, the Ministry also usually has the longest line at Epic. No cap, I've seen it with 5-hour waits on 7 different occasions. Before anyone asks, I was able to track it using the Universal app, which is an app you should have while at Universal. As for the actual ride, this is another one that has major spoilers. Skip to the time shown on screen if you want to skip. As for the rest of you, the best way I would describe the ride system is Spider-Man using Tower of Terror style ride vehicles. This is because you ride on elevators as the ride vehicles. This goes with the story. The plot is about the trial of Dolores Umbridge. However, she terrorizes the Ministry and our trio has to serve her justice. It's a safe but workable plot. What makes the ride work is how technological it is. The ride blends practical set pieces with 8K video screens to create a seamless action scene. A lot of the times, it's hard to tell what's a screen and what's practical. Then these scenes are grand in scale with how large these rooms are. Then the animatronics are lifelike with fully functional movements, particularly with the Death Eaters that function like an actual person. This is Epic Universe's signature attraction. However, despite the praise, the ride's not perfect. While I think the ride is great, I wouldn't call it greatest dark ride like some people are saying. The biggest issue is the plot. Some parts of the story have major pacing issues, scenes where it takes a bit to get going. Other times, the story loses the plot and gets convoluted as crap, which makes the story a little confusing. Like, what the heck is going on with that time turner scene? But thank the Lord Umbridge got thrown under the bus. See, she's one of the most hated characters in all of fiction because she acts cruel and ruthless to the students of Hogwarts. But I finally figured out why me and everyone else hates her. It's because she acts exactly like an HOA Karen. You know, those old heads that power trip over the tiny power they have in your neighborhood, constantly finding and calling the police over you over the smallest things such as too many cars parked on your grass or the grass being a little too long. Finally, why I like the screens, they're still too reliant to at least be considered best in the world. Overall, I think Battle at the Ministry is a great world-class dark ride. Okay, it's getting a little late. Better get that second Hiccup ride before nightfall. So I backtracked to the Isle of Berk back to Hiccups. This time I'm no longer burning since it's sunset at this point. I went back in line for Hiccups and luckily it was an hour. Yeah, that's still long, but not as long as earlier. So that meant I didn't have to wait as long to ride it.
Attention riders, due to inclement weather in the area, Hiccup's wing glider will be delayed until further notice.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, you probably forgot the thunderstorms were coming. Thunderstorms are rather common in Florida during the summer, but I don't think I ever had a visit where the rain comes this late in the day. Now, I would have just waited out for those closures. Knowing Florida weather, they only last between 15 to 45 minutes. However, the outdoor rides don't open until at least an hour after the thunderstorm clears. The big problem was that this happened at 8 o'clock. The park closed at 9. This meant the rides wouldn't reopen before the park closes for the day, so I just had to cut my losses and leave the queue for Hiccups. That's 60 minutes I'm never getting back. I backtracked my way to Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, and let me just say, I'm so glad I saved that ride for last, because going here during thunderstorms suck major ass. First of all, there's not a lot of capacity to begin with at 11 rides, but 7 of them are outdoor rides that can't operate in the rain. Mind you, there's still a lack of shade. This means if you go during inclement weather, you're getting poured down with only 3 rides open that probably has higher than average waits. So I ran to Mario Kart and yes, a single rider line. Most of the rides here have single rider lines if you got no friends or okay splitting up. This way, capacity is maximized and you get a shorter wait. However, all but this had their single rider lines closed. I don't know why. So I hopped in the single rider line and waited 50 minutes. Dang it! The line moved painstakingly slow as the main queue was 90 minutes. This also meant I missed most of the queue line and pre-show. What I did experience was the absurd amount of stairs. Crap, more stairs! This has the worst case of stairs I've ever seen for a ride. I've already explained how you have to ascend the escalators just to enter the land. But once you enter the queue, there's another set of stairs you need to climb up. Okay, that's concerning. But then you need to climb down this contraption. What is this? That's so many stairs. So thank the heavens you're climbing down and not up because, well, most of you would struggle to even get up with your big back. And I was tired as crap by this point. Climbing those stairs were a chore. As for the actual ride, Mario Kart is a slow-moving tracked ride using augmented reality. Yeah, this is not what we expected for a Mario Kart ride. If you want actual go-karts, Fun Spot, Andretti's, and K1 are down the street, but I think they did a decent job with what they're working with. This is a shooting dark ride where you wear AR glasses. Yes, the same AR technology used on mobile games like Pokemon Go. You use these glasses to see Mario Kart characters as you attempt to shoot them down with Koopa shells. You use these Koopa shells to obtain as many gold coins as possible. Meanwhile, you traverse notable maps of Mario Kart World with multi-large-scale set pieces blending into the AR. Now please keep in mind you're given a limited number of Koopa shells, meaning you have to be strategic where you fire, otherwise you will run out of ammo. If that happens, happens, you're gonna feel like the sniper that tried to take out Trump. As for the ride, it's 4 minutes of pure insanity. There's so much movement going on in both the rooms and AR, it quickly turns into chaos similar to a boys' sleepover in the hood. You easily get overwhelmed with how much is going on. Meanwhile, I'm too locked into getting these points to the point where I didn't even bother getting a POV of this ride. I mean, I did play a lot of GTA 5 and Black Ops 3 back on the PS4. It gets so chaotic, it starts to feel like a 4-minute acid trip. As someone who's never done psychedelics a day in my life, I have to imagine this is what LSD overdrive would look like. I mean, I did ask my fiend friends about it. They told me Mario Kart is what magic mushrooms look like. However, all that motion means it can get overwhelming and hard to take it all in. While I didn't feel affected personally, I know the AR can make some riders nauseous. Overall, while Mario Kart is not the greatest attraction, it's still a decent overall ride. By the time we got off, the park was already closed for the day, so I made my way to the drop-off area. But first, I bought this cool shirt from the gift shop for like $40. After which, I hopped in my mom's van and went home. So overall thoughts of the park. First of all, Epic Universe is not the easiest park to enjoy. The park gets slammed a lot and you will get worn out by the end of the day. With that being said though, this is the best theme park in North America. The theming, operation, and rides are of top quality and can easily fill multiple days. The top 3 alone with Stardust, Monsters Unchained, and Battle at the Ministry is an elite trio that makes coming out to this park worth it. Keep in mind, I had the most bare-bone days possible and I still had a great time. I can't wait to go back and redo my favorites as well as try new experiences. For example, Super Nintendo World has these mini games I'd like to play someday. I would have gone back by now, but again, my car has that shaking problem. And with plenty of time, Epic Universe will improve with some of my issues addressed and more investment coming in. I would like to make a video comparing Epic Universe and its rides to other Florida parks, but somehow I've never been to Animal Kingdom, which is surprising because that's the last park I have yet to go to. It's not for a lack of effort, but every time I try to go, I get judged as if I came out of the closet. Epic Universe is a world-class park that I'd happily go back to, and you should too. Just don't move down here. The last thing we need is more idiots piling up the roads and prices. So that's it. That is my trip report for Epic Universe on June 15th, 2025. If you think there's something I should know, leave them down in the comments. Well, the script is over 15 pages long, so congratulations for making it here. You are certainly not an NPC, so might as well like this video. Also, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. That way, you'll be alerted next time I upload a video, especially since I went to Carowinds a week later, so that's the other trip report you should look out for. Finally, watch some more bangers that popped up on your screen. This is the Coaster Flood, riding out.